All right, heartbreaking. The worst person you know has made a great point. Andrew Yang says stimulus checks aren't to blame for record high inflation in the US, but not all economists agree. So this is the one area Andrew Yang is not a complete moron on. So I think that it's good to highlight that because this is something that I agree with. Inflation is not because of stimulus checks, right? Inflation is because there's a fucking pandemic. Idiot. Did anyone fucking forget that there's a fucking pandemic? And these corporations are price gouging. They're making it up as they go. They're just raising prices willy-nilly as a way to just fuck the consumer. They're taking advantage of a mediocre but not that terrible situation and making it disastrously worse. And convincing actual legislators to not support another stimulus round, even though we need it. So, anyway, U.S. stimulus checks were too small and too short-lived to cause the country's record high rates of inflation, says Andrew Yang, one of the most dedicated proponents of universal basic income. Now, again, his UBI policy, not good. His UBI policy was very libertarian, a lot of problems with it. I support UBI in general, but his specific policy, not good. Just throwing that out there. A fiscal policy that is essentially stimulus checks forever. Money in people's hands for a couple of months lasts a year, in my mind, was a very, very minor factor in that most of the money has long since been spent. And yet, you see inflation continue to rise, the former presidential candidate told CNBC. I love the mayoral candidate. He just flopped so heavily. He doesn't want to be associated with that anymore. He's just, yeah, I ran for president, There you go. The U.S. issued some of its largest stimulus packages ever to help support the economy during the COVID-19 pandemic, including sending stimulus checks worth up to $1,400 directly to all Americans. Direct payments soon became one of the most popular elements of the COVID recovery plan, with strong support from both Democrats and Republicans. However, economists are now debating whether that generous fiscal policy is the cause. It's not a debate. The economists are paid and bought for by these massive corporations that will fuck you with this goddamn... with these massive corporations that want to convince you that you're not allowed to want good things. This is anti-marketing for the best fucking goddamn thing this country's ever done with the goddamn stimulus checks. What this is trying to market against that. They don't want that to happen again because they want to convince you that good things are not possible. And yeah, you may have gotten some good things in the past, but here's why that's a bad thing. It was only good for a little bit. They are lying to you. This is a conspiracy theory. Overstimulated? Question mark. Economists largely agree on the broad causes of inflation. The COVID-19 pandemic shifted consumer tastes toward goods rather than services, and manufacturers were unable to keep up with demand. Yes, that is a thing that happened. More recently, Russia's war in Ukraine has caused commodity prices like those for wheat and oil to spike, adding to inflationary pressure. Yes. And these are all things that do not have anything to do with the goddamn stimulus check. However, economists disagree on whether the U.S. government support, including stimulus checks, is the reason why inflation in the States is riding higher than... Inflation in the States is riding higher because we live in a corporate hellhole. Corporations have more control here than they have anywhere else. That's why. Is all price fucking gouging? Anyway, fuck what these people have to say. Direct payments reduce poverty. Yang's 2020 presidential campaign helped popularize the concept of universal basic income in the U.S., but the COVID pandemic helped to turn that idea into real policy, as both Trump and Biden administrations embraced direct cash transfers as a stimulus measure to support the U.S. economy. Direct cash transfers arguably avoid the messy bureaucracy of current welfare systems by giving cash to everyone regardless of status. Once again, you determine who doesn't need the cash and tax it back. It's way easier than doing this means tested, below 200,000 or whatever mansion was fuck. Since everyone gets money, everyone should, in theory, support keeping the program. Proponents of universal basic income argue the policy more effectively alleviates poverty. Now again, that combined with the child tax credit, which was basically UBI for parents, by the way, reduced poverty by half in this country. Joe Manchin, president of the country apparently, Joe Manchin said, fuck that shit. And now Democrats they have shattered in the polling since the child tax credit elapsed. So, they're trying to make stuff that's really popular, really unpopular. And at least Andrew Yang is not falling for it. Andrew Yang falls for a lot of stupid shit, but this one, he's in. He's in. So, I agree. Heartbreaking. the worst person you know makes a great point. Oh, my eyeball is like a goddamn eyeball. So that's the show.